Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to one of our favorite visual novels, Higurashi. We're currently under siege in our house, and it's not looking great. Reina is somehow managing to terrorize us from 10 feet away, and she tried to get in desperately. I don't know, but you guys, that scene was probably one of the creepiest we've had so far. The one where she's staring at us across the street is weird, but not as crazy as the one where she's trying to get in our house and pulling out all the stops. That was definitely a little bit unnerving. Now let's get into these tips. What do we got? Split personality. I think this is going to be talking about Reina. I see it in movies quite often. What is it exactly? Multiple personalities are thought to be escapism. Multiple personality disorder is a form of escape? Correct. The mechanism is not fully understood, but it's believed to be a type of defense for the brain to maintain mental stability. That's an interesting theory. Okay. Hypothetically, poor people imagining themselves as wealthy is a form of escapism, isn't it? Is this also a form of multiple personality disorder? Not quite, but broadly speaking, one could infer that. I think they're talking about those people who, like, buy a shit ton of stuff on credit and are, like, a millimeter away from bankruptcy, who basically pretend that they got fuck tons of money. And then get their crazy expensive car or truck repossessed, like, a year later. You know, those kind of people. It's something that occurs in all of us. Does a split personality occur when one cannot tell which is which is real, and which is the escape? Difficult to say. There are some who agree with that, and some who disagree. There's no consensus. Is the occurrence of multiple personalities still an unknown phenomenon? Something not fully comprehended in the psychiatric field? Dude, there's a lot that's not understood in the psychiatric field. Unlike physical medicine, where one can clearly fix stuff, and, you know, broken bones, diseases, have we've all made radical, huge strides in all those. Honestly, psychiatry hasn't really advanced that much. It's gone from lobotomizing people, or putting them in an insane asylum if you don't know what to do with them, to maybe some slightly less inhumane treatment, but actually curing people is considerably more difficult, as it's a lot harder to tell when you've fixed the problem. You know, you can tell if cancer's gone pretty easily. Like, did we cut out the tumor? Is there another one? Okay, we're good. You know, is there more physical problems? No, we're good. Mental stuff, a little bit harder. You get a concrete diagnosis of what's wrong and to fix the problem, because you can't see if the problem's been solved. Unfortunately, that is the current state of things. We can only put our hope in future research. But it's sort of cool having a split personality. What kind of people get split personalities? Recent studies find those who develop it, or those who are susceptible to developing it, may be genetically predisposed or have abnormal mental development. Some say childhood abuse increases the chances. Speaking of which, Person A here experienced abuse as a child, didn't he? How sad. Person A has 7 distant personalities. Let's watch a video of him. Right after these commercials. Damn, it was getting so serious, and they put that. They gave us that? Okay. 7th Mart. Seventh Mart was a bargain supermarket with food and alcohol. And ramen. I'm seeing a lot of ramen. There are like 4 shelves of ramen, and it's stretching like all the way across the supermarket aisle. Alright. What's this, Keiichi? So many. There's no reason to get all the different kinds, is there? I flopped all the different colored cup noodle bowls into the cart. Cup noodles have gotten so elaborate recently. There's a bunch of different types. I want to try all of them at least once. I know that feeling, right? You go to like the tea aisle and you're like, man, there's like, you go to the tea aisle in the grocery store, or you go to a tea store, and it's like there's 50 fucking teas. Like you're like first you try to find one you like, and then every other time you go, if you're a sensible person, you buy the one you like and like 1 or 2 experimental teas. And you try them out, and then you come back and you kind of try to keep doing that And once you find like 3 or 4 you like, though, it's really hard to keep experimenting because there's just so many varieties. And you're like, I have so much I like. I knew it was pretty selfish of me, but I thought I'd at least give it a try. I can understand Keiichi. Buy them in the big case, it's cheaper. Dad faltered. Well, I had a feeling it'd end up like this. Dad knew there was no point in him butting in. And I'd only get to eat one kind? I'd get bored with it. I was resisting as a formality. I'd already given up inside and wasn't sure which case of noodles to eat. If you can't pick, Mommy will pick for you. Don't rush me. I quickly searched the cases of noodles for what I want. Pork, bone, and ginger, large cup. Hey, Keiichi, can't you get a more normal one? If I let Mom pick, she'd err on the side of safety and get soy sauce or salt flavored. Oh boy, salt flavored noodles. Pork bone's good. I don't want a big bowl of tasteless mush. I remembered insisting the noodles I picked were the right kind. I remember that. In this frozen memory in time, this encapsulated world, I didn't have the power to look around my surroundings. So I did what I could and reached out with my hearing and vision, sharpening my senses to find the presence I overlooked. No matter how much I searched through my field of vision, I couldn't see Reina. I rewound the situation searching, but of course, I couldn't find her. Then, was she spying on me from my blind spot? I go through the sound and presences again, looking. I could sense the other customers. They were all mixed about, moving as they please. There was no one looking this way, and no one trying to get behind me. Not here? Couldn't be here. Probably not here. I definitely noticed if someone was right behind me, even when I wasn't on guard. I smiled wryly at the thought of using a vague word like probably right before contradicting it with definitely. Hey, when that happens, you're like... Then I paused my mental replay as a chill went down my spine. There was definitely a presence like a shadow behind me. That was a terror like any other. Man, this guy's mental rewind ability is quite elaborate. If her presence really had manifested behind me, I definitely would have turned around to check for it, right? But the world had moved on and there was no way for me to turn around. While carrying that frightening shadow on my back, I was gleefully running around the store searching for a case of noodles? Running through the instant noodle section, bad-mouthing my mom? But there was that presence at my back, sticking to me like a shadow. No way to see what it was, realizing now after the fact that it was horrifying and repulsive. In that moment, I was running around gleefully, carrying that cardboard box, tip-tap. But listening to the movement again, I could hear footsteps other than mine going pit-pat with every step. Tip-tap, 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 pit-pat. Tip-tap, tip-tap, pit-pat, pit-pat. Tip-tap, tip-tap, pit-pat, pit-pat. While I was running, the sound of those barefoot footsteps going pit-pat were right behind me. Me running around gleefully in that closed-off moment in time. But I didn't hear it. No, I heard it. That's why I remembered it. I didn't think I heard anything. That's why I didn't turn around. This is why I didn't turn around. In that moment, the pit-pat of the footsteps were following me the entire time. I couldn't run faster and escape. I couldn't run any faster than I had ran at that time. I couldn't turn around. I hadn't turned around before, not even once. Then I returned to my parents and started talking. The shadow-like presence was right at my back. I didn't move. The shadow didn't move. That's why it made no sound. That was all. At the time, I hadn't taken a single step while talking with my parents. I was just standing there. This was undeniable, and yet... I heard it. A pit-pat. If they were like right behind you, wouldn't your parents have noticed them? That shouldn't be. Pit-pat. A pit-pat when you were standing there. Okay. If I took 3 steps, it followed 3 steps. Wasn't that the rule? There was no sound other than that. At the time, the entire world had gone dark. A sudden darkness. It was the end of my reflective journey. I was tired and wanted to end it, so someone turned on the light, except my body couldn't move. As if I was sewn into that moment in time. Pit-pat. My past self's hair stood on end. Impossible. That's just breaking the rules. I haven't moved. You shouldn't be moving either. I couldn't move. You shouldn't be able to move. This is quite the nightmare. Follow the rules. Pit pat. Yet that sound echoed in the darkness once again. The hair on the back of my neck pricked up on end. It was so close, it was hard to tell whether it was touching the hair or not. Why couldn't I move? Like how the presence was moving behind me. I quickly realized I could move. It's just I was scared and didn't want to. But now was the only time I could turn around. It was something unforgivable in this moment in time, but I needed to turn around immediately. This is quite the nightmare. As if my entire being was trying to force me to stop, it began to administer a pain like a needle being stuck into my every pore. I'll turn around. I'll turn around. I'm not scared at all. I'll turn around. I'm not scared. A scream I was unable to vocalize. I turned around. At first, I couldn't understand the meaning of it. What's this? The situation in front of my eyes. It was like a mouth biting an apple and slurping the juice. The way you would with an apple. My mind was being eaten. It began to munch down, slurping the juices, because it was like an apple. Meaning what was in front of me was... Ah! And he's gone. That's quite the nightmare to have, Keiichi. Quite the nightmare indeed. And a perfect way to set the tone for our next chapter. I wonder if there'll be any resolution. In this chapter, at least. Will our character make any decisions? Will we make any progress or strive against this darkness? Seems like the darkness is on the winning side right now. But are we at our darkest moment? I don't know if we're at our darkest moment. I guess I'd be lying if I said I didn't get any sleep. I tried to stay awake all night, but there were gaps in my memory. I guess I kept nodding off and jerking awake in a panic all night. I spent all night hugging the metal bat and sat on top of the futon I used to barricade my door. Waiting. Watching, just in case someone tried to break through my window. If I left the spot, someone would break through the door, sending the futon flying and attack me. But if I stopped watching the window, someone could break in the glass and attack me. I tried to tell myself I was being paranoid, but I couldn't sleep. The thought of being so vulnerable scared the living daylights out of me. If sleep meant taking the risk, I didn't need it. It was so much better to just stay awake. At some point during that endless cycle of nodding off and jolting awake, light began to shine outside, but that was it. It wasn't so much morning as it was the sun simply having risen. I snuck a peek out through the curtains. Reina was gone. I couldn't see her anywhere no matter how hard I looked. Finally, I could breathe a sigh of relief. The night was finally over. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't tired. We made it. But I didn't feel like sleeping at the moment. I still had time. But I needed to make my own breakfast, so I'd better get started soon. Skipping school was also an option. With my mom gone, it'd be easy to play hooky. Honestly, I debated it. The risk involved in leaving my house was incalculable, so staying holed up in here was probably my safest option. But staying here wouldn't solve anything. Ooishi-san wouldn't help me without cold hard evidence. Neither he nor my parents. So unless I found some sort of proof, these relentless nights would never end. I stretched my body, tilted my head back, and closed my eyes just like I did every morning. I regulated my breathing, and I regained my senses. Calm down, Keiichi, my bar. Let's go to school. Let's wait until they've set their trap for me. But that didn't mean I was just going to twiddle my thumbs. I needed to avoid the trap and secure irrefutable evidence. Take note of the plates of any car that drives by. If I see someone suspicious, check their clothes and face. I wasn't just protecting myself, I was preparing myself to turn their attack against them and retaliate. The tension was similar to when two samurai were both aiming to slay each other with a single motion as they drew their katanas. I was not at a disadvantage. I would have a chance to retaliate. What are you talking about? You are at a huge disadvantage. You don't know who your enemy is, and the enemy knows who you are. I finally felt a bit of courage growing in my chest. Alright, let's get to school. I tightened my grip on Satoshi's bat. He's the only partner I could count on. Satoshi, please lend me your strength. And entrust your dying regrets to me, since you were probably murdered. I'll make sure I dispel them. With renewed resolve, I checked the clock. It was still early. Of course, I was going to school by myself today. If I didn't want to run into Reina or Mion, I needed to leave now. The shattered fragments of the cupboard were still strewn all over the entryway. Right, I meant to clean it up last night, but never got around to it with the phone call and everything. If my parents came back and saw this while I was at school, I'd never hear the end of it. Still, I'd be wasting time if I cleaned it now, and considering what would happen if I ran to Mion or Reina, it wouldn't be too late to clean it up right after I got back home, maybe. Making extra certain the doors were locked, I left the house. My uniform was still covered in mud from yesterday, so I left it in the washer. Today I was going to school in a tracksuit. By wearing a different outfit this morning, my mind was forced to accept that today was different than yesterday. Today is not the same. We are not going to be attacked. We are not going to be run over by a car. I had a hunch. Today might be the day I get killed. Keep your guard up, Keiichi. The only one who gets to decide if today is my last is me. His parents don't know he's talking to the police officer, right? So if the police officer turns out to be corrupt or something and kidnaps him, or gets driven insane while he's doing his whatever business. I spent the morning practicing my swing like it was my natural routine. After a while, Reina arrived at school. Our eyes met, but we said nothing. Reina said nothing about last night, as if it never happened. But I could see those events were real by the wounds carved into her fingers. I just heard her telling Satoko and the others that the bandages were hurting herself in the kitchen. So it wasn't like it bothered me. The details that Ooishi-san shared about Reina's incident before her transfer played vividly in my mind. Now that I knew about it, I couldn't even dream of Reina as a cute, ideal girl. Sorry, Reina. Kei-chan, I see you're still aiming for the nationals. It was Mion. I had already sensed her approach, so I wasn't that surprised. Oh, Mion. If you understand, then leave me alone. I'm busy practicing. I gave her a curt reply without my usual jokes. Then I gave the bat an even larger swing, tacitly keeping Mion from getting any closer. Hey Kei-chan, take it easy. I think Mion got the message, but she still urged me to give it a rest. Homer's not that far off, is it? Just let me finish practicing. I swung the bat even harder as a sign of my refusal. Kei-chan, when did you get into baseball? Recently. Recently? You mean yesterday? Don't ask if you already know. Oh dear. That's a very unsportsmanlike reply. You're distracting me. Go away. I ignored Mion and kept swinging. I mean, I know we're being super rude, but on the other hand, we do really want her to keep her distance, and it might be a matter of life and death, so I feel like being a bit of an asshole is okay if it's like, there's a non-zero chance I get fucking murdered today, or any other day by, like, Reina and Mion, like, most likely you're gonna get murdered next year, but maybe if you're, like, paranoid enough and you're like, it might be today, then you may want to keep them at arm's length forever. I can see that. How long will your vigilance last you? Normally people get used to things. They adjust. They adapt. Will Keiichi really last a whole year and a bit of paranoia? I feel like that would be exhausting. He's gonna have to solve it before then or disappear. Normally she'd get mad or bored and leave if someone gave her the cold shoulder like this. Mion just stood there waiting patiently for me to stop swinging. I didn't sense any hostility, but we were at school in plain view. I doubt she'd suddenly attack me here. Or was that too naive? Still, I was starting to get tired. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad to take a break and hear her out. You need me for something, right? What is it? Sweat poured from me as I stopped swinging. I noticed my shoulders were heaving as I breathed. Yeah, you don't want to wear yourself out. If you're like exhausting yourself practicing with your opponent your potential opponent right beside you, that's not great. I cursed my lack of exercise. At this rate, I may not be able to move as needed when the time came. I should probably keep practicing my swings to build stamina, in addition to the excuse for carrying the bat with me. Well, it's nothing important. If you're tired, I can ask again later. No, now it's fine. I'm only dealing with you now because I judged the situation to be safe. Talking to you alone and far from others, that's out of the question. Well, Mion was uncharacteristically trying to choose her words. But unlike Ooishi-san, it didn't seem like she was going to talk about something I'd rather not hear. Mion was puzzled, trying to find the right thing to say. But then she gave a hearty laugh to break herself out of that mire. Ha ha! This old man's just no good at this stuff. Having a poor vocabulary really hurts. What's this? If you have something to say, just say it. Stop it. Stop that swinging. She cut straight to the point. Her request was so frank I didn't understand it for a moment. I'd already stopped swinging to listen to her, hadn't I? I just stopped, didn't I? That's not what I meant. I want today to be the last day you swing that bat. Sorry. It took me some time to understand what she was asking for. But what's wrong with swinging a bat? Yeah, what's wrong with swinging this bat? Why? It's none of your business, is it? I'm not bothering anyone, am I? You are. Mion said it flat out. This didn't make any sense, and that was really irritating. And when did I bother anybody? Mion was at a loss for words. But she finally made up her mind and spoke. Though she stuttered as she said it. Because, Kei-chan, that's someone else's bat. You shouldn't borrow it without permission. It was left behind by a student who transferred, right? I'm just borrowing it till he comes back for it. Yeah, he transferred. She's like, you shouldn't steal someone else's bat. And it's like, dude, he literally moved out of town and hasn't been back for a year. He would have clearly taken it if he wanted it. Mion grew uncharacteristically flustered. Yeah, he definitely transferred. Definitely just transferred. He went to another school, guys. That made it all too clear his transfer was a lie. Mion's like, oh right, he transferred. He made the choice not to bring the bat. It wasn't like he was abducted or anything. But strange, isn't it? For the older brother to transfer by himself? While his little sister stayed behind? Mion couldn't hide her reaction as my words shook her up. Kei-chan, you knew? Satoshi Hojo. Satoko's older brother, right? The one demoned away last year? Unable to respond to that, Mion fell silent. Yep, that's right. He transferred out of town because his parents were moving, but his sister was left behind. Weird, isn't it? I'm gonna ask the same thing. Why'd you start swinging that bat? He told me Satoshi did the same thing. Practicing his swings. Right before he went missing. So? Is this some kind of omen for Oishiro-sama's curse? Shh! Mion panicked and looked around. Please, Keiichi, don't mention him so recklessly. I don't believe in him, but the others very much do. Reina, especially. Dangerously so. Anyway, you're scaring everyone. If you're just fooling around, then stop it. You have to stop acting like Satoshi. Why do I have to stop acting like Satoshi? This is for self-defense. I was the one who was scared. Who do I have to thank for taking up this bat in the first place? Oh, that's right. I have Mion and Reina to thank for this. Isn't that amazing? But it still unsettled me knowing my actions were overlapping with Satoshi's. It would be one thing if someone suggested it, but I thought I was making my own decisions. I'll say this now. I don't know anything about Satoshi. After all, you didn't tell me anything about him. Remember that she refused to tell him anything, and Reina said she never met him. So, he transferred out before she arrived, so they don't know him. So he doesn't know anything about him. We didn't mean to hide it. You were hiding the incidents that happen every year, weren't you? That's because we didn't want to, you didn't want to scare me? That's your reason for leaving me out? I feel like Keiichi is being a little bit salty here. Not entirely wrong, but I don't know why he's exploding at her. Maybe it's because maybe because, at least at this point, he's been really defensive. If he goes on the offense and like really pushes them, they might give him useful information. Because previously he's kind of been like casually asking questions, and when they hit back hard with their own questions, you know, they kind of turn his offense into a defense and rip information at him because he's really bad at keeping his mouth shut. So this might be a good plan for him. But we didn't mean to... Mion, I asked you directly if something happened at the dam, didn't I? And you told me nothing happened. When someone was dismembered and murdered, you lied to me. Sorry. I didn't mean to lie to you. Friends don't hide things from each other, right? Well, I'm sure your friends have secrets. I mean, they don't just tell you everything that happened, but... I mean, presumably they're not actively trying to hide things that you're asking about that might be pertinent to their interests. Like, you know, was anyone murdered at this place I'm going to visit, you know? Is there a serial killer running around that hasn't been caught? Might be useful to know. Isn't that right? You all aren't my friends. Keiichi. We... Mion looked helpless and flustered. Was I imagining the tears in her eyes? It's hard to tell, since I never could have imagined Mion acting like this. Oh, by the way, those get well mochi you brought me the other day? They were good. I thought I was gonna bleed. Who did it? Ooh, our character is getting super fucking salty. You know, normally the amount of salt... You know, normally someone being super salty about shit is, like, really annoying, but let's be honest, she put fucking needles in the mochi. Like, I'd be flustered too. I'd be a little bit tilted too. I was surprised he didn't say shit, but I mean, it was just fear, right? Now he's, like, angry. He's gone from fearful to angry. They were good. I thought I was gonna bleed. Who did it? You? Or Reina? Me. She admitted it so easily. I couldn't help but be surprised at how easy it was. You could have killed me. How are you gonna do that to a friend? But it was just a little prank. Mion gave a wry smile rich with confusion, causing even more anger to well up inside me. You think that was a fucking prank? I grabbed Mion by the collar and lifted her up. Now he's putting himself in danger. That's a dumb idea. Alright. And worse, if anyone else is looking, this looks terrible for you. What are you doing? That wasn't the same as putting Tabasco sauce in a piece of mochi. It was a needle, a fucking sewing needle. If I'd swallowed that and it lodged in my throat, what did you think would happen? Mion's face froze as her body rattled in fear. This wasn't the Mion I knew anymore. Anyway. You're not my friend. There's no reason for me to listen to someone who's not my friend. Just leave me alone for a while. Got it? Mion wasn't replying anymore. It won't be that easy to erase me, you know. The cops have been on to you from the start, so don't think you can make me disappear like you did Satoshi. Now he's giving it. I said it clearly. This is my declaration of war. I think you guys are suspects in the previous incidents too. Why is he spouting this? He's not supposed to be saying any of this. You know, he started out going on the offensive really well, and now he's doing exactly what he does every time he interacts with Reina and Mion, and literally just vomits information they don't know to give them more tools to use against him. Alright, I know you spent a lot of time with the cops ever since that anti-dam movement. Don't think you can hide from me, got it? How did you know? Mion stood there with a dumbstruck look on her face. And that was when I heard the principal ringing the bell for school. It was time for morning homeroom. You gave up all your ammunition without getting anything out of it, other than giving her more information. Alright, let's go. The class rep needs to be there, right? Right? At that moment, for the first time, I realized Mion was sobbing as tears ran down her cheeks. You're so mean, Keiichi. I wanted to console her, but I shut my mouth. I had no need to feel guilty. I'm going, don't be late for homeroom. I left Mion still shaking as I turned around to head for the entrance. I had no idea how troubling it was to make a girl cry. Behind my back, I could hear her muttering. It was a faint mutter. She was speaking to herself. So that's how it is. She wasn't saying it to anyone. It was Mion talking to herself. But it was a sobbing voice that had a kind of giddy, cursing tone. I inadvertently stopped and turned back towards her. So it was that bastard. He leaked it all to Kei-chan. She balled up her fists as her tears continued to rain down. She glared at a spot in the ground with a terrifying yet smiling face, cursing. A chill ran down my spine from that demonic expression. This transformation, Mion's transformation, was different from Reina's. I should have killed him back then. He forgot the mercy I showed him because he was going to retire this year. Retiring this year. Was she talking about Ooishi-san? Damn it. Damn it, I'm gonna kill that damn old man. It felt like the air itself had begun distorting. With Mion at the center, the world began to twist and spiral, bending, whirling. This is the first time I'd known, no, experienced such a visage. Rise. Attention! Mion made an excuse for her red eyes by saying there was something wrong with her contacts. After that, neither Mion nor Reina spoke to me for the rest of the day. Neither Satoko nor Rika looked me in the eye. I mean, she was literally just saying she should have killed the detective when she had the chance, and now she didn't. Oh boy. So, that entire Mion scene, her crying, 100% an act. Maybe she's crying because she doesn't like the emotional trauma, but like, she's 500% acting like a killer, alright? None of them looked me in the eye. Strangely, I didn't feel hurt. Everything had just gone back to the way it was. The months since I transferred in had been almost too much fun. That was all. School was supposed to be something like this to begin with. I should have disliked that feeling, but today it felt oddly refreshing. Yeah, I'd rather be alone than with people who are probably going to murder me or offer me as a sacrifice. Oh, how's it going, Angora? Thank you. The bell rung, sounding the end of the monotonous school day, which felt so tense and yet so dull. Since it would cause a lot of unpleasant memories if they asked me to join them in the club activities, I promptly started preparing to go home without even looking at them. I stuffed the contents of my desk into my bag, wrapped my hand around Satoshi's now familiar bat, and began heading towards the entrance. I was assailed by both the exhausting relief that nothing happened today and the tiring possibility of the same thing repeating tomorrow. I just realized I gave myself a paper cut. Or an actual cut, I'm not sure. Interesting. That must have happened like an hour ago, at least. I just like looked at my thumb and was like, oh, there's a angry red mark on it. What happened? Deep down inside me, far beneath, in the recesses of my heart, achingly, I knew this would be the last day of this cycle. So is he thinking things are getting worse tomorrow? I mean, it's been pretty stressful for these last couple days. I couldn't tell how the ending would be. Whether it would end as I wished it to end, or if it would end as I hoped it wouldn't. Regardless, in my current state, there was something more important than how things would end. There was something I wanted to know. Why did I have to be killed? How did it come to this? Why? For what purpose? The sunlight was relentless. The sun, the heat, even the air. They wouldn't give me my answers, or could it be the cries of the Higurashi were desperately trying to tell me something? Somewhere mixed with their shrieks, Tomitake and Satoshi were probably trying to tell me something. I simply haven't been able to realize it yet. When I do realize it, I wonder if I will be amongst the Higurashi, fruitlessly crying to the next victim. Glancing down at my feet, I saw a Higurashi on its back, spasming weakly. There was still much of the summer left, yet this one was already chirping its last song. I couldn't tell what it was saying, no matter how hard I listened, but I had to try. I had to try and listen to what it was desperately trying to tell me. At that moment, the shrills of the Higurashi ceased all at once. As if they huddled together, fearing the person who'd brought them to their dreadful fate had arrived. There was no mistaking it. A presence was approaching. The sound of footsteps was almost non-existent. If the Higurashi hadn't warned me by ending their chirping, I wouldn't have noticed. My exhaustion left me in a heartbeat. In its place, a rush of adrenaline that sharpened all my senses. Alright. I was just barely able to hold back that creeping, suffocating feeling of horror. It wasn't something I could hold back for long, but in this moment, when I felt I needed to be razor sharp, I was able to retain my composure. I wasn't gonna shout like I did yesterday. I hid myself calmly amongst the trees, waiting for my pursuer's shadow. Could I get them to pass me by? No. Since I was able to hear their footsteps, they probably were also able to hear mine. They might have already been able to tell that I'd hidden myself and was holding my breath. The person tailing me, was it Reina just like yesterday? If it was Reina, I wouldn't hold back. I could just yell at her and make her go ahead like yesterday. Dude, just hide and let her go. It wasn't Reina? Depends on how they acted, I guess. The footsteps ambled closer. I swallowed, wiping my clammy hands on my pants, and readjusted the grip on the bat. Bear in mind that last time, you thought someone was behind you. They hid, because you gave away the fact you knew they were there, so... Right now, they may not know where you are. I could tell that the fear that I had beaten back was now waiting for another opening to come at me. Who could it be? I peeked out from behind the tree at the person following me. My imagination hadn't led me astray. It was Reina. Remember, Reina travels the same route home anyway. There was a bit of relief as I realized it was someone I knew, but that left me in an instant. This wasn't the same Reina I knew. Her eyes were dark and lifeless, but her mouth appeared as if it was carved in a crescent. Yes, it looked like she was grinning slightly. And in her right hand was an axe. Oh boy. Oh boy, it's serial killer Reina. You know, it was cute last time we saw the axe. We thought it was silly she was skipping around town with the axe. Now it's about 500% more serious. Now, in theory, she could be extracting the Colonel Sanders. I think we got that done, didn't we? I swear, we finished extracting the Colonel. So there's no reason for her to carry an axe around, unless it's for us. I hid myself behind the tree once again and recalled the unbelievable sight I just saw. What was that just now? The embodiment of terror laid bare? Baseball, practicing my swing. There's tons of excuses for me to be carrying a bat, but for that axe? There's no excuse. You literally gave her an excuse to carry an axe around, you dumbass. An axe just like that? Keiichi-kun, are you playing hide and seek, I wonder? My heart was pounding. Hard enough I had trouble breathing. What little composure I'd been able to hold on to was now crushed. In its place, cold sweat gushed forth, covering my entire body, letting me know precisely what kind of emotion had taken hold. Not good, not good, not good. I wasn't able to hide myself completely. She already knew I was here. Were you trying to scare me, I wonder? I wonder. I decided it'd be better to reveal myself now, since there was still space between us, than allow Reina to come closer. I adjusted my grip on the bat again, readying myself mentally, and stepped out from behind the tree. I found you, Keiichi-kun. Reina was so pleased she found me, eliciting a mysterious giggle. Her mouth was smiling, but her eyes told me she was displeased by the fact I had been hiding. Those eyes, they were just so empty. My legs began to quiver. Not good. In the pit of my stomach, some sort of viscous, hot, and cold substance began spreading around. If I allowed it, that substance would slip into my bloodstream and undoubtedly freeze all the organs in my body. Not good. I'd be devoured by Reina at this rate. Strike back! Don't lose! What is it? I blustered, hiding behind my bravado. But Reina didn't flinch one bit. Just the same as Keiichi-kun. I'm heading home. What about that axe? What about that bat you're holding? I'm practicing my swing. I'm treasure hunting. Reina gave a flippant explanation as to why she had such a fearsome weapon. You're practicing your swing, then she is treasure hunting. Of course, of course. Treasure hunting? At the treasure mountain near the dam site, I found a new cute thing. So I needed this to dig it out. How could I believe that? You literally asked her to get an axe once to get something out. You've given her the excuse. Why is your character not willing to accept this or forgetting this? You wouldn't believe it, would you? Reina's laugh was so obviously very strange. I'd seen Reina's transformation many times before, but the one today was completely different. If only he had a cell phone and could record this shit. That would be so good. Unfortunately, no cell phones in 1983, at least not the smartphone kind with the camera built into them and recording functions. The one today was completely different, like her mischievous tone and the shrewd glint in her eyes. It wasn't something that roundabout. I'm not sure what to say, it's just so obvious. Wait, Keiichi-kun. Reina didn't stop walking, even as she let out that eerie laugh. Whenever Reina got too close, I would scurry away and turn back towards her, this cycle repeating over and over. No matter how you looked at it, I was being chased by Reina and was trying to escape. Are his parents home yet? Don't follow me. I can't do that. I'm afraid I can't do that, Hal. My house is this way after all. When I met with Reina on the road yesterday, she cowered and trembled as she followed my commands. But today was different. Reina didn't show a hint of trepidation. Actually, wasn't I the one who was cowering? If the way home for Reina and me was the same, that's fine. I'll just change my route. That'd work, wouldn't it? I turned onto a side street I'd never been down and knew little about. Getting lost. Good way to get killed. But Reina saw me do that and followed me while laughing. Why? Why? Aren't you going home? Just go home down the street you normally do. Why follow me down this weird side road? Those thoughts screamed to my head, eventually spilling out of my mouth. Why are you following me? The tone of my voice was already tinged with terror. I want to talk to Keiichi-kun. Keiichi-kun wants to talk to Reina too, doesn't he? Doesn't he? I don't want to talk about anything with you. It's a lie, isn't it? There's something you want to ask me about, isn't there? Not at all. I have nothing to talk to you about. That's a lie, isn't it? It's not a lie. Lies! Reina's scream echoed, startling some nearby birds into flight. I cringed in fear. The only other thing I could do was increase my pace. Let's talk, Keiichi-kun. Talk. Talk! Why was I running down this unfamiliar and deserted street? Because you're an absolute moron, a complete baka, and we're like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go down a street I've never gone down before. Doesn't Keiichi have something he's worried about? Nothing at all. I'm not worried about anything. Lies! Even though I was running. Even though Reina was walking. Why wasn't I getting further away? I know. I really do know. You're scared, aren't you, Keiichi-kun? I'm not scared. I'm not scared of anything. Lies! My breathing grew heavy and it felt like my legs were giving out from beneath me. Reina wasn't even breaking a sweat. I'll listen. This time I'll listen. I had no idea what she was talking about or what exactly she wanted to do. This time I'll listen. It'll be different from the time with Satoshi-kun. When she said Satoshi's name, I turned back for a moment. But even as I did that, she was still advancing. I couldn't afford to stop. Satoshi was worried too. It looked like he was having such a hard time, but I didn't listen. I was so sad. Where did this street connect to? All these twists and turns, these ups and downs. It was hard to believe this is even remotely the direction towards my house. My sense of direction had long since gone out the window. This is why you don't go down unfamiliar paths like an absolute idiot. Don't know why he decided to do this. Well, I mean, I know why he was thinking at the moment, but it was stupid. A stupid plan. When they already know where you live, and they're following you home. Like, you're not gonna lose them. Because worst case scenario, since they know the area better than you, they'll just go to your house and wait for you. What? I really regretted it when Satoshi transferred out. I thought that if I'd listened, he may not have transferred out. I really regretted that. The road led me deep into the forest. Dude, you're a fucking idiot. Holy shit. He's got lost in a small town. Seriously? Wasn't I getting further from the village the more I ran? I lost more and more of my composure the more I thought about it. But despite this realization, my inner self was still disturbingly calm. So you see, I vowed if there was someone struggling like Satoshi would, I'd save them. I don't want to see anyone transfer out again. Yeah. What does transfer even mean? I won't let you transfer me. I won't end up the same as Satoshi. Come on, Keiichi, talk to me. I'll understand you, Keiichi. I'm your ally. I started wheezing out of breath. My lungs were so hot, they felt like they were going to explode, and my heart was beating as hard as it possibly could. I should have practiced running instead of my swing. He was saying he needed to build stamina, and he was going to use the bath for that, right? I couldn't even afford to scoff at that stupid thought. If Keiichi doesn't have anything to worry about, he'll go back to normal. Everyone will be back to being friends, and we can enjoy club activities again. Next time, we'll team up and beat Mi-chan. Yeah, how much fun would that be? Reina couldn't even imagine how much I'd wished I could turn back the clock on these last few days. You could be nice to me again, too. I want to go searching for treasure again. This time I'll prepare a nice lunch. Actually, we could just go right now. Let's go to the dam site together. I'll show you the cute thing I found. I'm sure you'll like it, too. Oh, boy. My footsteps made pathetic flapping sounds as my legs wobbled and faltered. Hot on my heels, Reina's steps were sharply breaking twigs underfoot. I had to accept it. I was on the run being chased by Reina, and if she caught me, it was all over. I realized it instinctively. I couldn't even begin to think of what the end would entail. Right? We're finally playing Higurashi. A top-tier VN. And this is some pretty good writing. We haven't had, like, there's not been a ton of gore. There isn't, like, an obvious threat. It's all, like, you even sometimes question whether or not your character is insane or not. Like, is he sane? Because he's making so many assumptions about how much he's gonna get fucking murdered, and, like, every time you read some of the sections, you start to wonder, is your character actually mental sometimes? I mean, I think it's still real, but, like, the fact that you can even doubt that is part of the fun, right? Like, you and the character are both in this thing where you're like, is this real? Is this really happening? I just knew if I was caught, it was all over. That's what I knew. It didn't matter how it was going to end. I wouldn't let it end. Not without knowing anything. Not yet. Except he's, like, leaving him. That momentary lapse is all it took. Of all the things that could have happened, my knees buckled beneath me and I crumbled towards the ground. I tried to stand frantically, urging my legs to respond. I used my bat as a makeshift cane to prop myself up, but Reina was already standing right in front of me. Compared to me, out of breath and utterly exhausted, Reina was so cool and composed she could have frozen the air around her. She wasn't breathing hard at all. And rather, I couldn't even sense if her heart was beating. Are you afraid of something, I wonder? It's not like you to tremble, Keiichi-kun. Her expression looked almost affectionate. Those soulless eyes, that mask of affection. As she admonished me for trembling, her hands deftly slipped over her head. The blur of arms as they moved made me feel as if I was staring at the godliness of the 1,000-armed Buddha. Then as both her hands met above her head, the axe she held came into focus. I stared up at it in disbelief. It was all I could do. Tell me, what happened to Satoshi? Reina stayed like that with the axe raised above her head and solemnly opened her mouth. It was as if she was expressing a farewell to a friend she was never going to see again. That cruel scenario resided somewhere in her actions. I told you, Satoshi-kun transferred out. Enough of that transfer BS. It means demon away, doesn't it? Doesn't it? You can tell me now, can't you? Who made Satoshi disappear? Was it you? Mion? Or someone in the village? Answer me! I became frantic the more I screamed, but Reina did nothing but maintain the smile frozen on her face. I have no idea what Keiichi-kun is talking about. Then I'll say it in a way so you do. Who's the perpetrator of this chain of mysterious deaths? You seem to be confused, Keiichi-kun. What? There is no human perpetrator. Everything is by Oyashiro-sama's will. Isn't the curse just superstition? You believe in that too? It's not about believing it or not. Oyashiro-sama exists. Period. Reina's gaze grew more gallant. Gallant? The ferocity of her stare was so intense, not allowing me to question anything. There's just no way something like Oyashiro-sama could exist. You don't believe in Oyashiro-sama? There's no way I could believe it. There's no way it could exist. It exists. Oyashiro-sama exists. Keiichi-kun should have felt it personally. I've never felt something like that. Keiichi-kun, haven't you felt someone apologizing to you before? Constantly on top of that? All noise from the outside world disappeared. Only Reina's voice resounded soundly and terribly. You see, until you forgive them, they'll always be with you. At school. At home. At your bedside. I couldn't understand what Reina was saying. Came to me too. Oyashiro-sama did. That's why I transferred and came back to Hinamizawa. I don't understand. I don't understand. What does transfer even mean? What's Reina saying? Hasn't Oshiyashiro come to you too as well, Keiichi-kun? I'm probably the only one who you can confide in. I won't let you transfer out. Okay? Reina's demented laughter clanged around inside my head. Was Reina saying Oyashiro came to her as well? That's right. Last night I heard about that when I asked about Reina. We're back to the detective. Please keep this confidential. Also, part of this may be speculation. Not all of it may be true. Are you still interested? Ooishi-san began speaking. Neither the victims nor the school filed a complaint, so there's no preliminary report. Basically, the police hadn't intervened in this matter, so all these details are what I heard from those involved, meaning it's not that credible. You said there were victims? Didn't Reina just break all the windows? No, Reina Ryugu had attacked 3 boys, using a metal bat. 2 of them made it out with only bruises, but the other had been injured so badly that one of his eyes was permanently damaged. Wouldn't that be considered assault? Shouldn't the police have arrested her? For whatever reason, the victim never pressed charges. There was no report to the police, so... They were beaten with a bat and suffered significant injuries. Normally there'd be a criminal investigation. Why didn't they press charges? I tried asking the victims for their side of the story, but they were all reluctant. It's hard to say, but they were all afraid. Even after she transferred schools. Ooishi-san, could you summarize it starting from the beginning? Reina hit people while she broke the windows? Or was it she started breaking the windows after she got bored of hitting people? They sounded similar, but the meanings were drastically different. On an undisclosed date, Reina Ryugu was conversing with 3 male students, close friends of hers, near the pool storage shed. Who were those 3? I can't reveal their names, but they were close to Reina, and it seems they were a group of friends. She was the lone girl in their group, so it wasn't that strange that the 4 of them were together. What happened? I don't know the reason why. She took the baseball team's bat that was in the pool storage shed and beat the 3 of them down, one after the other. What? There were no witnesses. This was an account pieced together by the information given at the time of the incident. One day after school, Reina and 3 male students were at the pool storage shed talking. They weren't seeking help, rather, they usually met up there. It appears that it became a heated discussion. At that time, Reina underwent a change. The change was so abrupt the 3 of them didn't comprehend what was happening. Until she went berserk. Devoted herself to corn. And decided to start serving the blood god, attacking her friends one after the other. She left her friends covered in blood with gashes on their head, then made her way towards the school building. Then she broke the glass windows one after the other. A few minutes later, a teacher appeared on scene and subdued her. Thanks, I'm glad you guys like my voice. And this is... This would be a yikes situation. She beats 3 people with a baseball bat and smashes a shit ton of windows until a teacher stops her. Girls definitely got some issues. What was this change Reina underwent? What matches up in the statements from the 3 was a sudden change. The point is there was a transformation. I could also recall Reina's transformation. I'd seen that change many times before. It was different from the usual Reina, and I couldn't help believe it was someone else who looked like Reina. The transformation they're talking about, has it happened before? No, there was nothing like that. As far as I could find out, near medical history and past, there was nothing like that. Does it happen often, where people change suddenly like Reina did? Of course it does. There are plenty of psychological phenomena that could cause something like that. And you're saying there was a dormant element in Reina that caused the transformation? I can't say for certain. According to the statements of her friends, it's hard to believe she had such a side to her. Kind, caring, adorable. Even before she transferred here, she was probably pretty popular in school like she was now. That girl transforming suddenly and assaulting them with a bat, who would imagine such a thing? Nobody could have seen it coming. I myself sometimes believed I was mistaken for thinking Reina was like that, but even now... Then, what happened after that? There was a hospital right across from the school. The three were carried in and treated quickly. What about Reina? What about the police? Why wasn't there a criminal investigation? You see, the police can't get involved unless they're called. Even though one was badly injured with permanent damage, why didn't they file charges? That's what caught my attention as well. Either some threat or pressure was placed on them, or they had a reason they couldn't file charges even if they wanted to. We're talking about you after all. Of course you looked into it, didn't you? Well, yeah. I told you at the beginning, didn't I? The victims were all very reluctant to talk. They didn't want to touch on the matter, or rather, they didn't want to be involved. Reluctant to talk, didn't want to touch it, didn't want to be involved. It resembled the villagers here and Oyashiro-sama's curse. Oh boy. Did the teacher tell you anything? A school is hallowed ground. You could say they tend to keep scandals under wraps. I didn't have a search warrant, so I had to tread lightly, you see. And there's no comment from the school? No. They denied the incident even happened. Of course, of course. School cover-up. Why not? The government covers stuff up, the city covers stuff up, and the school. Why not? All of them are at least halfway believable. I mean, he'd look pretty bad for your school. If someone just, like, beat 3 people within an inch of their lives. I can totally see not wanting to spread that one. It's just 3 male students were carried in for blunt force trauma that day. That's all there was in hospital records. The victims didn't speak. The school denied it happened. You don't know anything at all? A lot of sound amount. That's a lot of sound redemptions coming in. Damn. Then you don't know anything at all? Yeah, I basically know nothing. That sucks. I know nothing other than the incident itself that took place. The victims also wish this incident to be kept from the public, so if you and I both forgot about it, my bar, then this incident will probably just fade away. For a brief period, we sat in silence. At first glance, it looked like a simple assault case, but that was just the tip of the iceberg. The depths were obscured by rolling waves, sinking quietly into the void as if it never existed to begin with. After that, she was suspended by the school, and during that time, she underwent psychiatric counseling. Did you hear anything from the doctor? Again, they were very professional in regards to their ethics. Or at least, very tight-lipped. Nothing? Even after you showed them the badge? I was told to get a warrant. The badge itself has no legally binding authority, after all. How did you know Reina confessed it was Oyashiro-sama? That was a nurse I asked in the department. She agreed to help me just from showing her my badge. What did she say? Turns out the nurse hadn't heard everything. Apparently all she remembered was what she overheard from inside the room. The nurse said, at the time, Reina Ryugu was very calm and mild-mannered. It was more like she was confessing her sins at church than a counseling session. She spoke with her mother there for some of it, but partway through her mother was asked to leave, so it became a private counseling session between just the doctor and Reina for a while. The part with Oyashiro-sama, when did that pop up? Partway through. She screamed the name suddenly. That startled the nurse, and that's why she started listening in. Definitely needed that drink. Alright. It was Oyashiro-sama! Reina suddenly shouted that. I had no idea what was said before that, so I had no idea what the meaning behind it could have been. The doctor, calmly and collectively, asked Reina to have a seat. What is this Oyashiro-sama you speak of? Gently, ever so gently, the fundamentals of counseling were believing what you were told. Okay. Whoever abandons Hinami-sama will be hunted down by Oyashiro-sama. And they finally gotten to me. That's the town you lived in before. You moved, isn't that right, Ryugu? I didn't want to move, but because of my mom and dad's circumstances, we had to, but Oyashiro wouldn't allow it. Ryugu must have lots of friends in Hinami-sama. Even now you must be missing them dearly, don't you think? I want to go back to Hinami-sama. It's not that I want to go back, I have to go back. I should have gone back much sooner. But now it's too late! Oyashiro has come! Oyashiro's the name of the god in Hinamizawa, isn't it? Isn't that right? Everyone knows it's Hinamizawa's deity. If you ever try abandoning it by leaving, you'll incur his wrath. You moved quite a while ago, didn't you? It was just now this god arrived, is that what you're saying? You might not believe me, but Oyashiro-sama exists. The nurse was then asked by another nurse to do something and left the room. That was all she remembered. That it was Oyashiro-sama's doing, right? I do believe there is that kind of superstition in Hinamizawa. If you leave the village, you incur his wrath. You should be familiar with this part, Marvara. I knew very well what those scorned by the village incurred. To hinder the dam construction project, they cursed the construction foreman to his death. Following year, Satoka's parents, supporters, leading advocates for the dam were cursed to their death. But this is the first time I've heard of the curse being incurred by leaving the village. My first time hearing that. I can't understand outside threats being cursed, but why also villagers who leave? Normally people who leave villages aren't supposed to be cursed, right? I know it's a bit strange to say it, but I could see it as a rule that the people who come in are the ones who would be cursed. Far from Jupiter, far from his thunder. Curses weren't something to chase after people that leave, were they? Ooishi-san pondered for a bit on the other end of the receiver and then began speaking again. Well, I told you of long ago when Hinamizawa was called Onikakushi, right? Yeah, I recalled hearing that. Okay. Makes sense. Long ago, Hinamizawa was feared and respected as village of the ogres. The village at the foot of the mountains worshipped the ogres, so Onikakushi was hallowed ground you could never enter. It came to be said if you entered carelessly, you were cursed by Oyashiro-sama, and those who set foot in Onikakushi, in other words, Hinamizawa, would be cursed. I can understand that. I know that, but for leaving to be no good? That's... The ogres, you see. They were being strictly watched by Oyashiro-sama, so they'd not enter into our world. In other words, Oyashiro probably restricted interaction between Onikakushi and the rest of the world. See, I understood what kind of thing he was then. So basically, he's more like a warden than a protectorate deity? Yeah, that makes sense. I was actually going to say he's a jailer, but warden is appropriate. He's making sure the demons don't get out. He's trying to keep this place isolated from the rest of the world? I guess that's how it would seem. I'm sorry, I don't know very much myself. This is mostly what was passed on to me from my grandmother. I can understand a bit better if it was like that. Those who came to Hinamizawa would be cursed, and those who tried to leave would also be cursed. So because Reina originally lived in Hinamizawa and moved away, she fulfilled the requirements for being cursed. I mean, because Reina moved away against its wishes, she was cursed by Oyashiro, right? Is that what it adds up to? In short, that seems to be what it points to, I guess. As a matter of fact, soon afterwards, they did move back to Hinamizawa after all. Those who abandoned it and left would be cursed. But then, why only Reina? Why not her parents? Couldn't Reina's parents have been guilty of the same transgression by moving away and been cursed? In fact, they should have been cursed even harder because they're the ones who made the choice, but maybe the curse doesn't only judges like duration or time span away, right? In this day and age in Japan, shouldn't there be a lot of people coming and going? If every single one of them was cursed, it'd be insane. But in reality, it wasn't that big a deal at all. At most, there'd be one person dying and disappearing on one day of the Watanagashi. I don't like saying at most, though. I mean, one person dying per year isn't that crazy, yeah? Anyway, there's still a lot I don't know. Even if it was Oyashiro-sama's curse, it doesn't add up to why her classmates, the victims who were beaten with a metal bat, wouldn't press charges. Yeah, why are the classmates? They don't seem to be associated with Hinamizawa at all. You don't think the victims were cowering because they believed that a curse had befallen them, do you? I mean, that's possible. Of course, I didn't want to believe it. I mean, if they were getting the same paranoid bullshit that Keiichi was getting, they'd probably be reacting the same way, right? More importantly, I just realized something else. There was another bizarre connection that Reina made between Oyashiro-sama's curse and metal bats. Right, Reina used a metal bat to cause a ton of damage to some people. Satoshi fell victim to Oyashiro-sama's curse and went missing. I recently learned Satoshi became infatuated with the bat right before he disappeared like me. Then Reina as well, she was affected by the curse. She confessed that much to the doctor. And the weapon she used at the time of that horrendous act was again a metal bat. And finally me, I'd encountered various things that were inexplicable, and now I was holding on to a metal bat. I was shocked when I learned that Satoshi did the same thing. It couldn't be. Had the same thing happened to Reina? But there was one critical difference between her and Satoshi's case. That being, Satoshi went missing after falling victim, but Reina was still here. Both of them fell victim to the curse, yet they were met with different endings. And finally me. I couldn't call it a coincidence anymore. Three people undergoing the curse. 2 different results. Reina, Satoshi, and finally me. Could it be that I was under the curse right now? No, more importantly, what am I supposed to do now? Satoshi had been demoned away, vanishing without a trace. Reina was fine. Fine? Reina had undergone a change. I could only believe there was something that wasn't Reina residing within her. And here, right now, it was standing before me. Flashback over. Reina, please tell me. What will happen to me? Reina stood imposingly, not answering. Satoshi disappeared, but Reina didn't disappear. So what will happen to me? I'd never heard such an unpleasant laugh before. It had become something akin to the sound of her breathing. It was no longer a voice or an expression of feeling. Don't worry, I'll save you. Fran took 1 step forward, still holding the axe high above her head. Now then. 1 step closer, Reina's face spread out to fill my vision. Speak. 1 step closer. Reina's nose was close enough to touch mine, and still pushing closer. There's something you want to say, isn't there? I'll listen. I'll save you, okay? Speak, okay? Speak! I slumped down, landing squarely on my butt. It wasn't for some pathetic reason. It was all I could do to get as far away from Reina. I had the gut feeling I couldn't let her laughter end. Because when that laughing ended, the moment I picked up on that feeling, my body moved by instinct. I sprang to my feet so fast I couldn't even believe it, and pushed Reina with both hands. She was as light as a feather. Thrown about by the unbalanced weight of the axe, she was sent backward as if she had been carried off by the wind. Bear in mind, an axe or hatchet is probably what, like, I don't know if she's carrying like a small axe, like a hatchet or some shit. I'm betting it's probably only a couple pounds, but if you're holding it with both hands behind your head, that's probably putting you that's moving your center of gravity pretty close to your heels. And up. Up is not good. Makes it easier to knock over. After confirming that out of the corner of my eye, I dashed off at full speed. I was the perfect picture of fleeing like a greased pig. Get away from Reina. Run. Survive. Survive! Have we hit the famous door scene? I believe the famous door scene was... If there is a famous door scene, it might have been last stream. Might have been last stream. I couldn't think of anything other than this. While I was running, I remembered I'd been holding onto a bat the entire time. Such a worthless weapon. I couldn't believe I'd forgotten about this weapon at such an important time. The important thing is that if she ever tries to sue for assault, he's pretty safe when he's like, I had a metal bat in hand, and I literally decided to push her. Not even with the bat, with my bare hand. While she had a fucking axe raised above her head, and I was on the ground. Like, come on. I sped even further down the winding path. I didn't even feel myself gasping for breath or my legs getting heavy. My body understood it as well. If I didn't run, I wouldn't live. I could hear the laughter of the simulacrum of Reina coming from behind me. It rang through the trees and in my head and slowly chiseled away at my sanity. A grove of trees thinned out, my field of vision suddenly expanding. Where was this? For a moment I was bewildered by the scenery I felt I knew but couldn't quite remember. I quickly realized it was the damn site. The fact I dashed madly and ended up in a place like this gave me a bad feeling, like I was only following someone's scripted plot. Oh, the axe is more like a machete? I see. Since they have a different graphic for another version of Higurashi. The reference axe they have for us. Alright. Definitely looking more like a machete. Definitely looking closer to a machete. And definitely something I would... Or a scimitar. Or Urukai's scimitar. Definitely not something you'd want to get fucking swung at you, though. That'd definitely kill you. Definitely gonna kill you. But thanks for sharing that. It's a little bit more balanced than an actual axe, though. Axes usually have all their weight at the one end. Especially cheap axes. Alright. Why are we at the dam? Why did we choose to turn left? Honestly, just go home and pray your parents are there. I don't remember if her parents are going to be back today. I thought it was just one day, or I thought it was just a couple days. I had a good view of my surroundings, but I didn't see a single soul here. This was a terrible spot for someone on the run, but there's no better place for an attacker. Dude, you literally ran off the beaten path as far as you could go, as fast as you could go. I have no sympathy for your stupid decision. My heart was already on the verge of bursting. The muscles in my legs were screaming, but I didn't care. If I stopped here, they might not be able to scream for much longer. Even still, I glanced back, looking for an excuse to rest. Reina wasn't there. Instead, I saw 2 villagers walking around. I breathed a sigh of relief it wasn't Reina, but a third party. Except the voice inside me rang the alarm once more. Villagers walking around weren't suspicious in and of themselves, but it bothered me. They both wore rough-looking clothes. Empty-handed, they definitely gave the impression they were just out for a walk. But at this time of day, 2 adults, without a purpose, wandering around, it's enough to raise some questions. But more than anything else, those eyes. They weren't chit-chatting while walking, they were both silent, heading forward, looking in my direction. Was I at the end of my rope? Had I finally started imagining things? I should run away. That was probably the best choice. Even if they weren't involved, I'd lose them easily by running. If they were part of the group, then they'd come running after me. Either way, unless I hurried up, Reina would catch up with me. That's right, I'm gonna run. Deciding that, the moment I began to turn tail, both of them rushed towards me as if they knew exactly what I was thinking. Somewhere inside me, I jumped to the conclusion Reina was the only thing I needed to be afraid of. I made the assumption I didn't need to fear anything else. But right now, I realize just how blatantly wrong I was. Suddenly, the story Ooishi-san told me about the demons all leaving the village to hunt prey floated through the back of my mind. I could tell they were both coming after me without turning around because of their frantic footsteps. It was frightening being unable to shake Reina off as she closed in on me, but this didn't even compare. Being pursued with such violent ferocity, this straightforward horror was unparalleled. One of the pursuer's arms grazed my shoulder. Right, so now it's like a 14-year-old being chased by, like, grown adults who are, like, what, like, 1.5 feet, maybe 2 feet taller than him, easy? Okay, that's gotta be a little bit terrifying. Now you're not running from a little schoolgirl who's probably like a foot shorter than you. You're running from someone who's bigger than you and probably faster. Wasn't just their frenzied footsteps, but I saw also the distinct sound of their breathing that I could hear. I could practically feel them breathing on me. They're already right behind me. Calm down, Keiichi. Still running at full tilt, I felt the surrounding area go still. No, like time itself had stopped. I turned my head back slightly in the frozen world, realizing how close my pursuers had gotten to me. I couldn't win against the legs of an adult. In less than the time it would take to blink twice, when this frozen time began moving again, they'd be right on top of me. On top of me, and then... Don't think about it, Keiichi. First, realize you won't be able to shake them like this. If the fact you can't get away with was a given, then you need to make a decision. Go with the right or the left. You just need to decide which one. Let's go with the left. The moment I decided that, the temporal singularity burst into pieces. Right. Left. I hope he breaks some knees. I swung the bat in a wide arc with my right arm. Using the inertia, I stopped and suddenly spun. The two of them were clearly startled. Momentarily losing sight of me, both their outstretched arms ready to grab me instead grasped at empty space. The man on the right, I applaud him being able to figure out, spun to the spot I shouldn't have been and faced me in astonishment. But it was too late. I didn't even need to swing my bat. All I needed to do was extend my arms as I turned around. It was by no means a heavy blow, but it seemed like it had enough power to knock him off his feet. Please tell me you at least broke a kneecap, like broke a leg, or dislocated a kneecap or something. That'd be really nice. But just knocking him down wasn't enough to scare him away. He got back up in no time. Both of them took a fighting stance and were ready to face me. This made me certain it wasn't just two people out for a walk. They were clearly after me. It felt much easier than dealing with Reina. Just by not recognizing them and not knowing them, it made things so much easier. I smiled wryly on the inside. What do you want with me? Next one's gonna be right in your face, you bastard! It's fine if it was just a bluff. By barking out at them, I'm able to fire myself up. They didn't respond. They spread out to either side of me with unbelievably calm expressions on their faces. Okay, now you can't keep track of both of them at the same time. This is really bad. You shouldn't ever... It's annoying in video games, but it's fucking nightmarish in real combat. You don't want to be fighting two people at once. One of them would grab my bat, the other would hold me down. Is that their plan? Taking both of them at once would be impossible. Hot sweat poured from every pore in my body. I just have to sell it with the first move. I'll step in and strike the first down. Narrowing my target down to the man on the right, who'd already been knocked down before, I stepped in and swung with my might. There was no way for an unarmed person to guard against it. It'd cause immense damage. If they blocked with their arm, their bone would snap like a twig. If they turned their back, it's possible the blow would travel all the way to their vitals. It looked like he was aware of this. He pushed further through the kill zone between us and delivered a fist right to my gut. Not good. With this distance, in this position, in this state, there's no way for me to dodge it. Flex those abs, baby. It's gonna hurt. The world flipped upside down, and I understood. I was being tossed around like a ragdoll. I landed on soft earth without a sound, just feeling the grainy soil press against my face. It didn't hurt at all. But the moment I thought of that, I suddenly felt pain coming from the abrasions on my skin, as well as the contents of my stomach being forced upwards, flooding into my mouth with a bitter sensation. I knew very well I didn't have the time to relish this experience. I stood as quickly as I could, but that moment, the other man was already barreling towards me. Being able to comprehend calmly that I simply couldn't dodge it made it all the more upsetting. After plowing into my stomach full force once again, my assailant twisted around behind me and locked his thick arm around my neck. My throat felt like it was being crushed by his immense strength. That's easy, just crush someone's throat. Yep, do everyone's favorite illegal chokeholds. Okay, good stuff. I couldn't contemplate that I was being strangled or that I was gonna go unconscious. My vision simply darkened and a silent whining noise began playing deep inside my mind. It took everything I had to keep myself from blacking out. While this was happening, the other man was likely standing in front of me. I wasn't able to open my eyes, but I could feel he was there. There was nothing I could do now. Unable to shake this arm off me, I couldn't run, I couldn't fight back. Dire straits. I couldn't even come up with the phrase that accurately described my situation. We're in some deep shit now. We're like completely fucked. A familiar ceiling. The smell of the bed and pillows. I knew them well. Was this my room? Normally there wouldn't be anyone in my room besides me, but their presence made me spring wide awake. When I did, pain shot through my entire body. Feeling alright? Great, we're held hostage now. Reina's here and I assume the old men are outside or hiding. I think you better just lie down for a bit. Why was Reina in my room? Blood began to surge through my muscles and my capillaries. But Reina's smile belonged to the Reina I knew well. Dude, don't fall for this Reina bullshit. Like, I don't even know why this kid wasn't carrying a fucking kitchen knife. Like, are you serious? Like, the minute that guy starts choking, like, I swear, if you're suspecting half the fucking village is trying to murder you, why the ever-loving fuck are you not just bringing, like, a small kitchen knife and be like, that's, like, the easiest weapon to carry around and no one has to know you have it. Obviously, like, a pocket knife would be maybe a little bit better, but you could claim it's around for utility, or, like, that you left it in your pocket to carry it around at home, but damn, dude. It would have been so easy for him to take a kitchen knife and keep it in his pocket, right? I swear, you could probably keep a kitchen knife, and then that guy goes to strangle you, and it's just knife to the chest. Like you don't need the bat with the long swinging time. Yeah, we have to take on like the whole fucking village. Yeah, we're in trouble. I knew I shouldn't let myself feel this way, but I relaxed thinking this version of Reina was safe. Dude, like, run to the kitchen, knife to the... Run to the kitchen, knife to the chest, get the fuck out of Dodge. Like, why am I... Don't you remember? After losing consciousness, nothing at all. My body became more lethargic than I could ever have imagined. I guess that'd be the expected outcome after exerting everything I had back there and getting choked to unconsciousness for more than 5 seconds. He's passed out for at least a couple minutes here. I tried to at least clear my head, but I couldn't shake the sluggish feeling out of my mind. He's probably been unconscious for at least 5 minutes. I called the doctor. He should be here soon. I think you better just lie down until then. I wasn't injured seriously enough to merit calling a doctor, but knowing someone impartial was coming was slightly reassuring. Why am I here? I'm sure I was at the dam site. That's what I want to know. What happened? When I got here, Keiichi had already passed out. That's why I'm the one who wants to know. I was attacked by two weirdos. As I talked about it, I finally remembered what happened right before I passed out. Recalling the memory and the terror along with it caused the fogginess in my head to clear right up. Forget about those two for now. I didn't expect Reina to be nursing me. I thought Reina was trying to kill me. What? She had the perfect chance while I was unconscious. Not only did she not kill me, she nursed me after... Again, they only kill you once a year. They're gonna force you to stay here and then murder you later. Come on. Amazing, you could drag me all the way back here. Wasn't I heavy? Looking at Reina's delicate frame, it was hard to believe she'd not only got me back home, but dragged me to the 2nd floor. Did she have some help? Oh, don't you remember, Keiichi? Reina appeared surprised, but kept her smile. I only propped you up on my shoulder. You said you could walk on your own and you were fine. Don't remember? We were literally choked unconscious. The fuck are we walking anywhere? My memory was fuzzy after the point I lost consciousness. What about those two? Huh? When you got here, Reina? The ones with me, or rather those two guys? Oh, there wasn't anyone. She said it bluntly. The way she stated it felt slightly unpleasant. I was just too timid at the time. I might have been able to force some answers out of Reina, but if I did that, then this kind of Reina might transform into scary Reina. Fearing that, I didn't press further. Thinking about it, it was the obvious choice. If both of those men were here, I don't think Reina could have stood a chance. I couldn't find a way to explain unless I assumed she brought me here after they were gone. Reina was still smiling. Yeah, smiling. Thanks, Reina. Her eyes sparkled warmly. And yet, I felt like I was hallucinating when I saw something. Something akin to a shadow slowly creeping across her face. That small omen sent shivers down my spine. While Reina was still Reina, I needed to make contact. I needed to contact Ooishi-san. Reina stopped me when I tried to get out of bed. She said it would aggravate my wounds, so I should sleep. His injuries are what? Being choked unconscious and being, like, punched in the stomach a couple times? He can probably get up. I'd like to go to the bathroom, though. Sorry. Reina couldn't say anything else. Well, at least Oyashiro-sama fell for that one. While Reina stayed in the room, I quickly went downstairs to get the phone receiver in the living room. When I approached the front door, the doorbell rang. Ding dong. It must have been the doctor, Reina called. It was strange for a patient to welcome in the doctor making a house call. But it would be incredibly reassuring to have him there for the considerable time it would take Ooishi to get here. I carelessly opened the door with that simple assumption, and regretted it almost instantly. Leon? Oh, you look fine. I heard you collapsed, so I came to check on you. How'd you know I collapsed? I heard from Reina over the phone. Do I need any reason other than that? I understood why she would call a doctor. But why Mion, too? Reina was descending the stairs behind me. Reina, doesn't Kei-chan look pretty alright? You made me worry for nothing. Oh, that's true. Maybe I worried for nothing as well. They both began laughing. It appeared to be cheerful laughter, but I couldn't shake the feeling there was a darkness looming over them. Whoa, what's up with this shoe rack? How'd it get like this? This shoe rack got smashed to pieces. Have been like that since yesterday. I fell, you see. And the bat I was holding at the same time slammed into it. This is what happens when you swing around something you're not used to handling. I kept the fact that was none of her business to myself. But leaving it like this will really startle your parents when they get home. I'll fix it up for you later. Now, come on, Kei-chan. The terminally ill need their rest. Come back in bed. Back in bed. Both of them urged me up the stairs. This is where you put the phone in your pocket and accept that, and you're like, I'll stay in my room. I had no chance to call Ooishi-san. I was pushed into my bed. As it was the first time Mion had been in my room, she began searching around it intently. She fiddled around my room and was scolded by Reina. You can imagine how it went. It was uncomfortable having my room poked around, but the conversation was so benign, it was heartwarming. So what now? What now? They've captured you. What are they going to do next? It seems really pointless to expose themselves like this so early if they're not planning on murdering you, but like... Alright. During that innocent conversation, Mion said something as though it was perfectly ordinary. Reina, did you call the manager? Yep. Right after I called Mi-chan. He said he'd be right over. Manager? That out-of-place word gave me a bad feeling. Reina called the doctor, and then called Mion, and after that she called the manager. Who was this guy? Since their conversation was so peaceful, it only felt slightly odd. What are you two talking about? Who's this manager? Oh, didn't you know, Kei-chan? We mean the manager when we say manager. Like the director of a movie. Or like a foreman of construction site. The foreman they murdered. Haha, very funny. I dug through all my memories for a manager who might have business with me. Only one thing came to mind. What Reina had just said. The construction foreman. The very first victim of the first incident. The dismemberment at the damn construction site. That foreman? But that's strange. He's supposed to be dead. There's no way they could call him. I don't understand what you're talking about. What does that manager have to do with me? You said he's coming. Do you mean to my house? I asked one obvious question after another. But all the two of them did was smile coolly at each other. The huge difference between how the two of them appeared and how my suspicions were playing out. Slowly I felt discomfort and panic welling inside me. I couldn't understand what Reina and Mion were talking about. Kei-chan, you've gotten into basketball, or baseball. I said basketball, why basketball? You've gotten into baseball lately, haven't you? Maybe it's because I saw B-A-S-E and the ball and just assumed that basket was in there, because I think baseball's lame. Pretty sure the manager will be happy to hear that. So, who's this manager? The manager's the manager. Everyone knows the manager. So, who is the manager? Reina and Mion looked at each other and laughed haughtily. That disturbing cackle unpleasantly resounded around me. The laugh, long enough to be unsettling, ended abruptly. Oh yeah, we should finish up before the manager comes. You remember, don't you, Kei-chan? Her face was laughing, but Mion's eyes told a different story. Remember what? Kei-chan, has he forgotten, I wonder? About the penalty? The penalty? Did you really forget? The homework with the mochi? The homework where you're supposed to guess which Reina made? You forgot that homework, didn't you? I certainly did have that homework. I'd thrown away the rest of the mochi after I found that sewing needle, so I wasn't able to answer which one Reina made. Didn't he guess E? The penalty for that? Why now? No doubt my question was written all over my face. Their answer to my question was the dry laughter. I could no longer make heads or tails of anything. I began to think that this entire day was somehow insane. I mean, this whole day is insane, let's be honest. Strange. Incomprehensible. Being chased by Reina, attacked by strange men. The penalty Mion and Reina were talking about. We are in so much shit. What were these two laughing at? Everyone's crazy. Dude, everyone's fucking crazy here. It's bananas. It didn't take that long for me to realize I'd been dragged into an abnormal situation. You think, you were choked out and dragged to your house and woke up with with one of your friends and another one on the way? And you were checked out by like two mysterious adult men? Like, what? Who are these two? Who are these people? Who are these doppelgangers of Reina and Mion? Reina got behind me at some point. Oh boy, it's zombie Reina. Let's see. Why was she pinning my arms behind my back? What are you doing? Don't move. This is your penalty. My body was already very sluggish, and Reina pinning my arms made it that much harder to move. I seriously tried to struggle, but she wouldn't even budge. My panic began to well up, and I realized this was well beyond the realm of jokes and pleasantries. This freakishly monstrous strength, it would have been impossible for the Reina I knew. These thin, frail arms grasp me firmly. Whose arms are they? Kei-chan, no struggling. Club rules, there's no exceptions. You can't fight against the penalty. Mion, no. The thing that looked like Mion spoke to me like how Mion would speak to me, but I was certain this was not Mion. Someone who wasn't Mion, someone pretending to be Mion. Heh. Need to finish this up before the manager comes. Mion fished into her pockets and pulled out something bizarre. I could tell what it was by looking, but for a thing to be in her pocket, my mind just wouldn't accept it. What is that? It was a small syringe. It was a small clear syringe like what a doctor would use when you went to him when you were sick. Reina held me even tighter, and I could hear that clattering laughter that no longer sounded like laughter blaring into my ears. Oh boy, oh boy. That eerie laughter, it wasn't something the Reina I knew would ever produce from her own throat. This thing pretending to be Reina, was that the real laugh? Unable to defend myself, the syringe Mion was holding drew closer, and that needle tip was waved in front of my face countless times. Don't worry, it won't hurt. What are you planning on doing? What kind of sick joke is this? What are you saying, Kei-chan? You know what's going on, don't you? About what? I don't understand at all. I know you know. No use playing the fool this late in the game. Stop talking nonsense. Try to confuse me. You're going to have done to you what happened to Tomitake-san. What? The same as Tomitake? I didn't really understand what she meant. What did that have to do with this syringe? It's obviously the drug they're giving you to make you go insane and tear out your own throat. Come on, man. You're playing dumb, Keiichi-kun. You should have realized it by now. Look, Keiichi is a bit of a dumbass and alternates between pretending he doesn't know anything and screaming out all the information he knows so that everyone is always up to date on everything he's thinking. Bit of a dumbass. But hey, I guess he's trying, and he's only, what, like 12, 14? Reina whispered into my ear, laughing as if to admonish me. Even the way she spoke was repulsive beyond compare. Playing dumb? Me? About what? What do you mean the same as Tomitake? Everyone thought at first it was a hit and run. Except when the officer got closer to check if he was alive and soon noticed it wasn't a normal situation. His throat was scratched out. From a knife or something? No. Nails. Nails? Nails as in fingernails with those gouged through? That's right. Tomitake had clawed out his own throat with his own nails and died. There's no way someone could die like that. So then for that to happen, we thought drugs were to blame, but nothing of that nature was detected. That's right. The police didn't find any drugs in Tomitake's system. The police told me they didn't find any drugs in Tomitake's body. The two of them laughed together with that sickening laughter. Of course they'd laugh. To assume such a medicine didn't exist because the police didn't know about it was completely foolish. Meaning the drug that caused Tomitake to die in a bizarre manner did exist? If Mion injected this into me, that'd be all the proof I needed. It'd mean I'd end up the same as Tomitake. Become hysterical, scratching at my throat in my last moments, and then die? For such an outrageous drug to exist, for Mion to be holding it, and then I was about to be injected with it. At that moment, I didn't feel there was a need to whatsoever to question it. What kind of idiot, when he's trying to dodge a ball flying for his face, has time to think of a reason as to why it's flying at him? Axes? No axes here. Only a needle. A needle with a madness-inducing serum that'll cause anyone injected with it to claw their own throat out. Literally kill it. Like, they'll just cause them to kill themselves. Give up? Alright then. Mion's action lacked any gravitas, and that made it even more terrifying. There was none of the ceremony like when someone is sentenced to death. No hesitation, it's just as if she's brushing her teeth. Mion reached with one hand and grabbed onto my chest. It felt like electricity had run through the back of my head and the entire world had gone dark. Okay, you got about 4 seconds to die. 4 seconds of your life left. Did I stand up too fast? Did someone hit me really hard in the back of the head? Having lost my sense of balance, I was assaulted by a wave of dizziness. And apparently that's the end of the chapter. No, it's not. I squatted down for a bit. When I came back to my senses, the entire room had changed drastically. What? What? We were like 11 out of 10 fucked. And then we squatted down, and when you came to your senses, the room changed. What? The numbness in my head was gone, and slowly I could tell blood was flowing to my extremities again. How long had I been squatting here? How many minutes? Hours? It was almost like the hands on the clock stopped moving the entire time my eyes were closed. That's how little time passed. Wait, really? The air in the room wasn't filled with that madness from before, only a dull silence. Reina wasn't there pinning my arms. Mion wasn't about to inject me with a needle. No way, could it be? All of it? A hallucination? There's no other presence in the room beside my own. It was the weirdest experience I'd ever had. I was certainly with Reina and Mion. I doubted my sanity for a moment, but I was also seized with some sort of comfort. What just happened? What just happened? Thanks for the drink. What actually just happened? So, we got chased by Reina, then strangled unconscious, and then we woke up in our room and we're gonna be murdered by Reina and Mion. And a quarter second before it was going to happen, we woke up in our room after having crouched down for hours? What? I guess that terrible ordeal was a hallucination. Neither Reina nor Mion, they would be like, oh my god, he's back on the copium train. He's back on the copium train. The hopium train. Neither Reina nor Mion, they wouldn't ever do something so terrible, right? Right? Surely. My head grew hot. I could tell my emotions were welling up. Why? That wasn't a reason to cry. Why? It was sorrow. Why was I sad? I don't understand. Kind to everyone, not discriminating against age or gender? Mion. That Mion was sprawled by the window in an unnatural pose. Blood stained her a deep red from her head down to her chest. The bright crimson smeared on the walls, and that splatter undoubtedly came from Mion. She always had that bright smile and was kind to me from the day I transferred. Reina. That same Reina was slumped at my feet, making the same pool of blood as Mion. I couldn't comprehend what happened. Did someone come to save me? Then they beat those two down with this metal bat? I finally noticed the weight in my right hand. How long had it been there? It was Satoshi's metal bat. It was covered in a deep red. There was no doubt that this was the weapon used to mutilate both of them. And I was holding it. I was the only person in the house. What? Looking at this objectively, I couldn't think of anyone other than myself who could have done it. I did this? That's right. Keiichi Maibara. Of course, I did it. I told myself gently, as if coaxing myself. Hey, me. There's no reason for you to remember it, nor is there a need to regret it. To be fair, they were like an inch away from murdering you. Eat or be eaten. You got that, right? Right, don't you? But the blood, there's so much. Neither Reina nor Mion had moved an inch. It wasn't just a split forehead and a trickle of blood, nothing that simple. The entire room was splattered red, and it told me it didn't end with just two or three strikes. Were they dead? Both of them? The depths of my mind were calm, but on the surface I was panicking and agitated. Calm down, Keiichi Maibara. What happened to your usual self-calm? Come now. Do like you always do, and throw your head back and take a deep breath. Okay. Easiest thing to do. You're gonna get your phone. You're gonna call the detective. You're gonna first calm down for 2 seconds. You're gonna get the syringe. You're gonna call the detective and say, I literally got strangled unconscious, and my 2 friends were gonna inject by like 2 adults, and my friends were gonna inject me with a serum that they said would kill me, like Keiichi was, like Takahashi was murdered. I defended myself with a bat. I think I defended myself with a bat. I don't actually remember any of this happening. I don't remember the bat part happening. But the next thing I knew, I had a bat in my hand, and they were both dead. And you're like, I think it's self-defense. Like, everything I remember was that they were trying to kill me. And I killed them. And they're in my room. Like, I didn't want them in my house at any point. I've like screamed at them to not come to me. I've like I've literally run away from that every opportunity. I don't know what the fuck's happening. And I think you'd probably get away with it. Like, if you, I don't mean get away with it, I mean like you probably wouldn't be arrested for murder. If you had the syringe, at least. If you have the syringe, you're probably safe. Come on. Once. Twice. Breathe deeply. Calm down. I chanted that over and over in my head and relaxed. You're probably not going to jail for this. This probably wouldn't count as murder. You're pretty safe. Color came to my vision and smells re-infused the air. At the same time, I remembered what happened when I blacked out. Okay, so what happened? Reina and Mion had attacked me. They were about to inject me with whatever caused the same symptoms as Tomitake. But right before that happened, I fought back. I twisted my body and threw Reina as she was pinning my arms. I followed through with my spin and rammed my foot as hard as I could into Mion's torso. It was soft. Reina tried jumping on me, so I tackled as hard as I could and slammed her against the wall. I didn't let that brief moment of having them off balance slip by. Satoshi's bat that was left carelessly by the side of my desk. Bleep. At that moment, everything went pitch black. There was nothing recorded past this point in the videotape in my mind. That wasn't right. It wasn't that there was nothing. It was recorded just fine. Just the other me inside myself told me not to look and turned off the TV. Because the scene had gone black and I couldn't see it didn't mean the videotape within me hadn't recorded it. The TV was just off. The video is still playing. The tape within me creaking along, still playing. On the other end of that pitch black screen, that horrifying video was still playing on. Compared to this, though, the scene right before my eyes, was so difficult to take in. There was blood everywhere on the walls, the 2 of them in these unnatural poses. Not a sign of movement from them. I couldn't even tell if they were breathing. No matter what the circumstances were, my friends, these girls, Why is he still on the fact that they're his friends? You've already fucking killed them! They literally tried to kill you multiple times! Why be like guilty? Just be like, fuck man, that was a waste of so much time and emotional energy. Might have even killed them. But if I hadn't done this, I would have been the one done for. Balancing that on an imaginary scale, it felt like odd that I'd even feel bad about it. At least he's recognizing that. Even if it's excessive, this is justifiable self-defense. The proof is all here. The 2 of them collapsed. Mion's syringe. The syringe filled with an unknown drug would certainly solve the mystery surrounding the incident with Tomitake. And from the fact that both of these 2 were involved, they'd be able to pick up the criminals one after the other. Still, I might be suspected for this, but that was just fine. Anyway, this should be a police affair now. This wouldn't fade into the darkness like Rena's past incidents. As long as the police are involved, that should bring this to a close. They'll probably revisit their investigation on the chain of incidents. Ooishi would definitely get to the bottom of it. So call him! Meaning my wish. Grab the syringe and give him a ring. My wish of not wanting to die, of wanting to know the truth. It would be fulfilled in its most basic form. It's all a matter of time now. The doctor Reina called should be getting here soon. I'll confess everything to him. She didn't call a doctor, she called the manager. Are you paying attention? You need to be acting. You need to be acting. She called the manager, who is like the person in charge of them, telling her what she's doing. You can't be like fucking around and assuming this guy's on your side. Call Ooishi right now. I need to contact Ooishi. Grab the syringe, contact Ooishi, and don't talk to anyone. At that moment, I remembered. Besides the doctor, a manager had been called. It was easy to imagine they were someone deeply involved with the incidents, judging from Reina and Mion's conversation. The ache in my chest, caused by the gruesome deed I'd done, dissipated rapidly. It's not over yet. At least he's realizing this. Come on, man. I don't know how long he's actually spending thinking about this. But this place was no longer safe. Stay calm, Keiichi. It's not over yet. I needed to live long enough to tell the police of this incident. And at that moment I felt like I heard someone's voice from outside. Since people were speaking, it must mean there's more than one person. I moved the curtain ever so slowly and peered outside. It was a bizarre sight. About 4 or 5 grown men were gathered at the gate. They very much resembled the 2 men who'd assaulted me at the dam site. Why is he not calling? Pick up the fucking phone! The 2 might even be among them. There was one person there wearing a white coat, but he didn't look like a doctor at all. My gut told me he was in disguise, only posing as a doctor. He'd probably ring the bell and get me to open the front door. Pretend to be a doctor to get me to open the door, and then the rest of them would rush in at once. At that moment, I saw the car parked behind the men, and my heart nearly skipped a beat. The white van. It's the van that hit him. No mistaking it. That van, the one that tried to run me down. The man in the white coat entered the gate and headed toward the front door. He's still watching! Why are you not picking up the fucking phone and being like, you need to get here right the fuck away? 2 people just tried to murder me. I literally am running for my life. I'm going here. Fuck it. Bye. Like, and instead he's like, I need to watch what these guys are doing. Huh. How many guys am I playing? What are you, like Jason Bourne? Get the fuck out of here. If you're like Jason fucking Bourne and you're like 6 men, one of them in a trench coat. Okay. One of them in a white coat. Yeah, okay, I can take them. You know, and you're planning how you're going to murder them. Like, go for it, like, whatever, but fuck, this kid's doing too much. I couldn't pretend I wasn't home. Undoubtedly, they'd just break the window and enter. I need to get out of here somehow. Pick up the phone. Use a public phone. Too late, fuck. Don't use a public phone. Call Ooishi right now and be like, people are actively trying to kill me. I'm going here. Bye. Get there. Bye. And just, like, be fucking gone. First of all, I need a weapon. Then shoes. But before all that, there's one thing I have to do. I had no intention of dying. Get the syringe, get the phone, call, and leave. Come on, man. I'd live and reveal the truth. You need proof. Please tell me he's not just going to run out and ignore the proof. But what would happen from here, regardless of how determined I was, may bring my demise. And that's why there's one thing more important than getting out of here. I need to get that clock out quickly and take down the note. Are you fucking serious? The syringe! For the love of God! Damn it, the tape's sticking to it too fast. I'd be fine if it was torn a little. I opened up the slightly torn note, began writing another passage with a ballpoint pen. I wasn't able to inform Ooishi. The only thing I could rely on was this note. I never thought a piece of torn, college-ruled notebook paper would be this reliable before. I had no time. I'd only write what I knew. I needed to leave some sort of information that would lead him to uncover the truth. Reina and Mion are conspirators, the perpetrators. It's an undeniable fact. I didn't want to believe it. It's a fact. Anyway, I'd leave all the information that would help them finding it. There's 4 or 5 adults, maybe more. They have a white van. It's everything I'm able to see from the window. There may be more. There's that unidentified person known as the manager. To begin with, the term manager didn't mesh with Hinamizawa at all. If they were going to include the manager from the past incidents, the only one is the construction foreman, the victim of the first murder. The very first victim in this chain of incidents. Killed in a lynching, his body divided into 6 pieces. His right arm never discovered. The police should have confirmed that death. But Reina and Mion both did call him manager. They said manager. They wouldn't use that term to refer to someone who is dead. The police would never even concede that someone who is deceased could be involved. Could it be an oversight? I didn't know. But even if I didn't know, it could be a big hint for Ooishi-san. That's right. They needed to start fresh from the first incident. It wasn't just a simple dismemberment, but the start of this string of mysterious deaths that would follow, so then there must be something hidden there. Please reinvestigate the victim from the first dismemberment incident. He's alive. His death should have been established after an autopsy. Logically, you'd think as much, but was that really the case? Could it have been a ploy they were able to deceive the police with? I shouldn't jump to conclusions, but he may still be alive. I had no time to ponder that right now. Oh yeah, there's something more important I need to write. Tomatake's death was from an unknown drug. That's right, the drug. It was an irreplaceable piece of evidence. No doubt, just by having this, everything would be uncovered. I couldn't just leave that vital clue lying on the floor. This syringe is proof. Writing that down, I stuck the syringe onto the back of the clock with plenty of tape. It would absolutely not slip out of the floor, and firmly, ding dong. The bell rang. They were here. I couldn't write anymore, but even still, there was one last thing I had to write. I have no idea why it's become like this. This may be the closest thing to the truth out of everything I wrote on this note. If you're reading this, I am probably already dead. So you may or may not find my body. If I was going to write out everything that could happen, either dying from the curse, or being demoned away, you who are reading this, please uncover the truth. That is my only desire. With this, my last will and testament was complete. It wasn't certain I was going to die, but it was my final plea, just in case. I folded the note, stuck it into the back of the clock, and returned the clock to its usual spot. I couldn't help but pray. Ooishi-san. If something happens to me, I leave the rest to you. After that, I gazed down silently at Reina and Mion. It was probably the last time we'd ever see each other. Reina, Mion. I really thought all of us were friends. Why did it end up like this? I never had any fun in my previous school. I only worried about standardized test scores, although in the school I hoped... But if the school I hoped to get into was really where I wanted to go, or a safety net, that's all I talked about. Yeah, I'm disappointed too, man. Reina and Mion seemed really cool in the first couple chapters. Things have really gone downhill. It was a dull life. The people I called friends were my rivals in studying, in competition, in personal records, in standardized test scores. Everyone taught me how unhealthy that lifestyle was. This month was really fun, making a fuss over lunch, a fuss over the club, over the festival. Something hot began dripping from my face. Uncontrollable tears. I should have had no obligation to shed tears for them, but I wouldn't stop. Even if they were after my life, even if they were trying to kill me, everything that happened this month, I wouldn't forget it. Or could it be those happy days were all a facade as well? Was it a trap meticulously orchestrated until today to ensnare me? Could it have been I just arbitrarily assumed they were my friends? That couldn't have been the case. Both Reina and Mion, they really were my friends. Those happy days, there was nothing fake or unclear about them. Someone probably forced them to try and kill me. Their minds taken over, possessed by a supernatural entity, perhaps? Regardless, both Reina and Mion, the best friends ever. And when they were coming after me, it wasn't of their own volition. Wait, they weren't the kind of people to sell off their friends, regardless of whether or not they were forced. There's no way such a thing as being possessed by Ooishi would happen in reality. Did the real Reina and Mion then come after me? Yeah, they seem too genuine to betray you like that. What was I thinking? What a silly, dumb idea. Having beaten down both Reina and Mion, I was still debating if they were the real ones or fakes. Dude, just accept that they're fucking evil. I mean, it's pretty traumatizing to have your friends try to murder you, though, so I'll respect that. I'll respect that. I'm not gonna, like, bitch about this character. That seems fair. There's no real or fake. Only the reality was before me. Reina and Mion sprawled out at my feet, the only truth. I was only trying to twist the facts to my benefit that I'd beaten my friends to death. They're not your friends, buddy. They're not your friends. No matter how I spun it, it wouldn't change the reality. They're both dead. It felt like there was a crack in the dam of strange emotions I was holding back. It felt like my calm state, nothing more than a bluff, had receded, and in that opening insanity was leaking out. Dude, like, what are you doing? I killed them. I killed them. Okay, stop crying over the fact you killed someone who was trying to kill you, and get the fuck out of here before 6 more people kill you. Come on, man. Reina and Mion, I killed them. The doorbell rang again. Dude, like, why are you, like, I'm fucking glad that doorbell's ringing, because holy shit. The unrelenting echo pulled me back into a state of composure once again. I didn't have a moment to spare. Quickly, I needed to get away. I didn't want to die. I'd uncover everything after that. The identity of whoever pushed me this far. Even if I had to drink mud and eat grass, I would survive. I'd survive. I'd definitely survive. I killed Reina for that very reason. I also killed Mion. I went just that far to keep living. I can't die. Not now. And for my sake and for the sake of the late Reina and Mion, I have to survive. I ran towards the door and grabbed my shoes. The doorbell rang again as if to urge me on. Behind this single solitary door, they were there. Go out the back door, dude. Keeping quiet, I headed towards the kitchen. Towards the back door. Before opening the back door, I put my ear to it and checked for people outside. No one. After I put on my shoes, I opened the door slowly to not make a sound. I mean, there's possibly less people at the back. There he is, the back door! A piercing voice echoed out. The voice stabbed through me, setting my hair on end. I had to run. Get out of here, Keiichi! One after the other, I felt stuff like rationale and intelligence. The things you use when you have time to spare spill out of me. I didn't feel pain from the branches scratching my arms and forehead. My autonomously pulsing heart felt neither fatigue nor pain. My entire being just wished to live. There was nothing else it desired. It probably had no complaints whatsoever, so of course I wouldn't feel fatigue. I just ran. Just recklessly rushing in the direction I was already heading. Even if no one was chasing after me, I'd still be running like this. There wasn't a thought in my mind about where I was headed. Turning around, I felt a presence next to me. It was without a doubt chasing me like my own shadow. If I took one misstep, I'd be devoured. That's what I thought. So I didn't turn around. I didn't stop. I ran. At full speed. Go Keiichi, at least you got a message. Although I've already said it like 3 times. He should have told Ooishi about the fucking message instead of his parents. The chirping of the Higurashi told me it was evening. Trying to tell me something, and then I finally heard it. The wailing cry of the victims who didn't make it. Would I be joining it? I mean, you can just hear the Higurashi right now. I don't need to read some onomatopoeia. Only the Higurashi knew. They knew everything. They definitely knew. So I ran towards where I could hear more of their chirps. But the further I ran, the further away their chirping became. I couldn't get near them. Why are you all running away? Was it my fault? Was I the one to blame? I'll apologize. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Sorry. I'm sorry. 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 I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I felt like only the Higurashi knew. And I think that's going to be the end of the chapter. We run off into the bush with 5 guys on our tail. Oh, we're still going, damn. This is a long-ass chapter. The smoking room was filled with a cloud of cigarette smoke. The expansive smoke filter gave off some crackling electric noise, but it didn't seem like it was doing anything at all. Why do smokers have to be shoved so far down this corridor where the sun didn't reach? Why do people have to smoke Why do people want to smoke in the first place? Why do people want to smoke in the first place and ruin everyone's health, their own health, and the health of everyone around them? And why do I need to be considerate of people who want to poison me? And somehow the chapter isn't over at this point. Okay. I recalled hearing that the tax revenue from tobacco was about 1/10 of the municipality's revenue. We are the most heavily taxed members of this municipality, so I really wish they'd show us a little more respect. Why would you discard the 5 Monzu there? It's just decreasing your options. One of the younger detectives was having a staring contest with the Mahjong magazine called Next Turn. You're still in Tenpai if you cut the 5 Monzu. You're betting on a Haite, shouldn't you be going into it with a Mongan? Kuma-chan, look at the pond. They all discard a 5 Monzu, it's a safe tile. You'd hate it at the endgame if someone was sitting on a Tenpai on the last turn, wouldn't you? The kid let out another groan and put out his cigarette and took out another one. I just don't agree. Why would you reduce your own options? By the way, you can't call Ron with your winning tile in that high-tie. Why's that? Just then I heard a voice coming from down the hall. Are you here, Ooishi-san? You have a call from a civilian. Well, ain't that something? Oh, see you soon. Why can't you call Ron on it? Wait, hold on for a second. Ooishi-san! Nope, smoke breaks over. The man sitting in the seat Ooishi was headed towards waved at the receiver. Outside line from a payphone. Oh, why thank you. Sorry to keep you waiting. This is Ooishi. Who is it? Ooishi-san? Hello? If it isn't my Bara-san, good evening. From the tone of my Bara-kun's voice, I already knew he was in a predicament. This is the first time he'd phoned me, and he was calling from a payphone. Please, calm down. Did something happen? His voice was erratic over the line. He'd completely lost his sense of composure. After checking nobody else could hear, I prompted him in a hushed tone. What happened? Calm down, my Bara-san. I can have the local officers head to your location. I'll be there soon, too. I think that's impossible. His voice was quivering and hoarse. He wasn't surrounded by people as he was making this call, was he? My Bara, you're calling for a payphone right now, right? Where's that payphone? There were no others besides my Bara-kun's voice. It had to be a phone booth. I scratched out a note and thrust it at my colleague sitting across from me. Hinamizawa phone booth. He understood quickly and hastily started on the internal lines. Calm down, my Bara. What's your current situation? It usually wasn't a good idea to tell someone panicking to do so, but this was not a usual case. Maibara didn't just get in trouble, get away, and then call me. He was in the midst of something dangerous right now, but yelling at Maibara would just needlessly cause him to be more frantic. Maibara wasn't just calling to seek help. He was trying to tell us something more than that. And whatever that was, if I didn't get it from his call, it would certainly never be another chance. My colleague pushed a note in front of me. There's only one booth in Hinamizawa. A patrol car is on the way. 5 minutes. That's too long. How many officers are in there? 2. Not enough. If it was as I imagined, there was likely quite a few people surrounding him. 5 minutes was too long. Did you call the officer stationed in Hinamizawa? He's scheduled to be on patrol. They're currently out. It'd be impossible to contact them. Damn. Hima-chan, bring the car around. Understood. Hello? Ooishi-san? Hello, it's alright. I can hear you loud and clear. There was something wrong with my Barakun. That wasn't a normal coughing sound. Vomiting? Or was it blood? Had he already been attacked? Was he injured? Maibara, the police are on their way. They'll be there in a couple minutes. Hold on somehow. Hello? Can you hear me? Maibara? I could hear on the other end of the line. He was having a coughing fit. The worst possible situation popped into my head. Maibara, who's the culprit? How many are there? I thought at first the culprit was human. I couldn't tell if there was a cough or vomiting. Are you alright, Maibara? I thought the culprit was a person. And Naoto Yashiro's curse. Until right now. But I guess in the end, it was an intense bout of coughing, then vomiting. I guess Yashiro does exist. No, he's here. Maibara, please, calm down. I've been thinking it was strange for a while now. It's been following me this whole time. I run and run and run, but it just sticks to me like my shadow. But slowly, so slowly, it's digging itself into my back. Maibara, are they right now perhaps behind you? Behind me? Behind me. Please, Maibara-san, I can tell you're scared. Please, who is it right behind you? I can't just look behind me. If I do, I understand you're scared, but please tell me. You just need to turn around. Who is it? Who's behind you, Maibara? Right after I said that, I could hear him vomiting intensely. What followed was a nightmarish sound. Maibara-san, it couldn't be that you're clawing out your own throat? There was no answer, but I could hear something like scratching. There was a bang as if something was being hit. Maibara had probably dropped the receiver. I could hear groaning and vomiting on the other end, and repeating abnormal noise. Hello? Hello? Maibara? Hello? I knew how far away my voice would sound on the other end, but I couldn't help but shout. At that moment I heard whispering coming from the other end. I couldn't tell what he was saying. From the way he was saying it, was he talking to himself, or was he talking to someone there? Hello? Maibara-san? Rather than whispering, it was a kind of mantra he was chanting over and over. I focused my senses, trying to pick up what he was saying. What was he repeating? What exactly? Beep. Suddenly the line went dead. Did he just use up his time? It's because it was a payphone. It was because it cut out so abruptly. The last thing he said came out so clearly in my mind. Ooishi-san, the car is good to go. Ooishi-san. It was... I'm sorry. Ooishi? That's what he was repeating over and over and over. He said, I'm sorry. I had a gut feeling. There was no longer a need to hurry. I could hear the chirp of the Higurashi spilling in from the open window. Quee, 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 quee. I should have been able to hear them this entire time. I just wasn't paying attention. Why did I focus on them all of a sudden? Were they trying to tell me something? Only the Higurashi knew. That's how I felt. July 1983. In Hinamizawa, a remote village near Shishibone City, there was a murder involving 2 female students. Suspects Keiichi Maibara, aged something. The suspect called over his 2 female classmates, Reina Ryugi and Mion Sonozaki, to his house and beat them to death with a metal bat. Press X to doubt. The scene of the crime was the suspect's room on the 2nd floor of his house. Let me guess, his parents are too stupid to remember the clock. Inside of the room was covered with a significant quantity of splattered blood, and there were signs of a struggle with the victims. In addition to the scene of the crime, the entryway living room, and a kitchen. All had traces of a struggle. At the entryway, the shoe rack and wall had evidence of being impacted by strong blunt force. It's believed to have been the same bad as the murder weapon. Okay. Having no trace of blood, it's believed the destruction occurred before the murders. There's the possibility the suspect overpowered his victims to keep them from fleeing. Oh, so that's what he's assuming. Interesting. In the living room, the rug had been pulled back and thrown aside. It's hard to believe this had a connection to the struggle, and thus the reason remains unknown. In the kitchen, the garbage bag was torn apart and its contents spread on the floor. Garbage strewn about it in the surrounding area and handprints believed to belong to the suspect. It's believed the suspect had, for some reason, taken out the garbage and struck it with his fists. The reason remains unknown. In addition, there's a note stuck to the fridge. The words, "Was there a needle?" were written on it. The meaning behind this remains why the fuck? Ooishi, what are you smoking? Just in case the garbage was searched, but a needle was not discovered. Though the garage door was functional, it's been left open since the suspect moved in. The garage door was found closed. The suspect's fingerprints were discovered on the garage door. The reason behind this remains unknown. I guess it's just... Why? I don't understand why Ooishi is saying he doesn't understand why some of this is happening, when he knew exactly what happened. The suspect fled the scene of the crime scene. However, a patrolling officer found the suspect collapsed inside a phone booth. At the time of discovery, the suspect was unconscious in critical condition. He was rushed to the local hospital and did not regain consciousness, dying within 24 hours. Obviously not, because they probably just killed him. The results of the autopsy indicate the immediate cause of death to have been hypervolemic shock. It was determined he clawed at his own throat with his fingernails, and the resulting bleeding caused his death. With the similarity to the death of Tomitake, the police believe there to be a connection and opened an investigation. However, due to the wishes of local authorities, it will be a confidential one. Due to the abnormal nature of the death, it was suspected that drugs were involved, but as with Tomitake-san, no traces were discovered. What prompted this remains inexplicable, as such this case is being treated as an act committed on impulse. However, with several accounts of the suspect's bizarre behavior leading to the incident, it's possible it's premeditated. Who the fuck is writing this report, and why are they this stupid? Separated from his friends, isolated, inexplicable behavior several days before the... Stop typing, please. This auto-scroll is super annoying. I don't understand why we're getting this report and not, like, mentioning... and saying, like, oh, it's inexplicable. It's like, we fucking know. We know. Like, we know. Ooishi knows. Stop being stupid. Alright, several days before the incident, the suspect began carrying around a metal bat. It was... Yeah, okay, I'm just gonna keep reading this. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, 2 days before this, blah, blah, blah. Declared to the parents the possibility of his death. Due to those circumstances, the police investigated that the crime was not committed on impulse, but was planned several days in advance. He literally told them... Are they going to get his notes afterwards? Okay, cool. A note found in the suspect's room he wrote himself. The note was written on 2 sheets from a B5 college ruled notebook that had each been torn out, as if trying to conceal it, was stuck behind a clock on the wall. Okay. The contents are as written in the appendix. Okay, well, you got his note. The police believe it to be strongly related to the incident. Cool. They changed their line of investigation based on the possibility the suspect was involved in some sort of incident himself. However, no further clues were found, casting doubt on the credibility of the note. Was the crime impulsive and premeditated? With the situation unclear and no further developments, the case has been unresolved. However, the following year, suspicion arose regarding the nature of the note. The note was not written on 2 halves of B5 paper from separate note sheets, but originally a single sheet of B5. In order to erase several lines from the middle, someone had torn them out. Judging from the size of the letters, the missing section is estimated to be 2 to 3 lines. It's highly probable the person who eliminated the lines in question is not the suspect. In addition, judging from traces of large quantities of cellophane tape being stuck to the back of the clock, speculation was that something other than the note was stuck there has arisen. The person who first discovered the crime was a detective rumored to have a connection with the incident, Kurado Ooishi. He underwent voluntary questioning, but denies involvement in the damages to the note. The suspect's note. Hi, Keiichi, I'm in fear for my life. I do not know why they are after my life. The only thing I know is that it has to do with Oyashiro-sama's curse. Reina and Mion are conspirators of the perpetrators. There are 4 or 5 adults, maybe more. They have a white van. This is all in the first sheet. Everything below this has been ripped out. This is from the second sheet. Everything above this has been ripped out. I have no idea why it's become like this. If you're reading this, I am probably already dead. Though the only difference may be the presence or lack of a body. You who are reading this, please uncover the truth. That is my only desire. Keiichi Maibara. R.I.P. in peace. They got his note and the drugs. A new scenario, all cast review session. Play it, select extra on the title menu, thank you. And I think we've reached the end of the first section of Higurashi. Damn. Alright. That was quite the ominous tale. I quite enjoyed that. The first chapter of Higurashi, quite enjoyable. The backgrounds are probably the only thing I didn't like. I didn't actually mind the lack of voice acting. It was kind of nice. It kept the pace going. Although you don't have an idea of what their characters' voices sound like. I mean, most people have seen enough anime. They know what someone pretending to be a schoolgirl sounds like. That was chapter 1 of Higurashi. Rest in peace, Keiichi Maibara. At least he got his vengeance. At least he didn't go out 0-1. He went out 2-1. A respectable KDR. No friendlies were killed either. He got two people involved with the conspiracy. Like, he didn't make it out, but hey, he did some work. To be fair, he was against like 8 people at that point. Like, he was at least 8 people. He got wrecked. But he's also like a 14-year-old with no training, who had to take on like half a fucking village of psychopaths. So, he did an alright job. That was pretty good. I think we could probably go for another chapter. I could go for another chapter.